Good evening. Oh, I can't hear you. Are you muted? I can't hear you. Weird.
Hey,
Okay, Drew, I can hear him, but I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Good? Sweet. Oh boy, that would have been fun.
perfect.
Hopefully, Esteban didn't fall asleep when he was drinking earlier. So we'll see what happens.
What else is there to do? What else is there to do?
Man, no joke, right? Just
He's pretty professional, man. He'll show.
hey, Sam.
Hey, gang. Nice to see you again.
I know it's been so long.
Hey, Sam.
Hey, hi, Megan. You've been quiet lately. What's going on? No questions anymore?
I always have questions.
There we go. Yeah, your face shows this kind of, emotion that you always have a question that no one can answer. So let's see how Esteban's going to be doing today.
Okay.
Bombard him with some questions that he can answer.
Promise.
Let's do it. There you go. Now we're talking. How you guys doing? Okay?
Yeah, hanging in there.
Sheltering.
Someone's got the right bottle. Why is it empty though? Almost
So
empty.
you have almost, yeah, exactly. Well, I got this to go. So we're good.
Oh, okay. Well, let us
There's
know if
lots.
you need any help.
Of course, always. The more the
Hey, Nick.
merrier.
Hey, Nick.
Mark, I got some question to you.
Okay.
Do you know that COVID-19 exists at all? Do you know that that's kind of happening nowadays?
COVID-19, yes.
But by the weight of your orders, I don't think it exists for you.
Well, I'm not afraid of this. I do it very smartly. I got my mask, I got my internet, and that's all. But so far, so good. My liquor stores are ordering Alcohol sales at liquor stores in the Bay Area are up 400%. I'm trying to get part of that.
Yeah.
There you
no
go.
doubt.
But thank you for noticing.
Unreal.
Here's a Southern California Jane joining us. The red hair guy, Elijah. Nice.
All right.
Hey,
Hey, S1, how are you, man? Sorry I didn't send you the link.
good.
I figured I tagged you in enough posts today that you might have been just annoyed, you know.
No. I saw Sam is there. Oh no, is Robert there? No.
Robert, yep, there's Robert.
I saw that creepy mask.
It's actually Roberto. It's not Robert. It's Roberto.
That's for you, Esteban.
Good. Los charros.
So we'll wait a couple more minutes and let people, you know, remember that this was happening, and
Cool, don't worry.
we'll jump in and go from there.
You call. Whoops.
Esteban,
Yes.
when might you be near Puerto Vallarta next?
When you leave, my friend. It's too dangerous.
Yeah, it's nasty down here. Don't go near the beach. They'll put you in
Canadians are
jail.
very, very.
Wow, that video is unbelievable. Unbelievable.
What
Or
video?
very believable. You didn't see that? I'll send you the video of these, whether they're Canadian or American, they literally assault a reporter on the beach who's filming people who aren't supposed to be on the beach. They come at her and they attack her.
Oh,
And
no.
oh yeah. It's look on any Mexico Daily News or anything. It's a hot topic.
I'm-
it's brutal.
The most fun part of all this quarantine is like I'm completely out of news and things. Like I'm just spend like 5 days in my house in here, 5 days in my house in Mascota, and out. You know, there's too many shit happening in this
Yeah.
social media and news and things. Like it's not good for our brains.
Yeah.
Okay, wrestling's over, and I think we've waited long enough. We'll just so just so you know, Esteban, people will just kind of come randomly in and out as these kind of go along. So, and you know, there's a little chat box, and if there's ever questions, I'll make sure to ask them. But I made sure to load myself up with plenty of questions for you.
Cool.
So really, at this point, you know, everyone just make sure that you have something to drink. I'm going with the Bacanora right now. So, oh, nice. Got the Raicilla, tons of fun stuff. Some Darumbas. I know Nick's planning on killing that bottle tonight, so that'll be good. Depletions.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for you guys that don't know me, my name is Drew. I work for JVS Imports out in California, and I've been hosting these virtual happy hours as just kind of a fun way to escape the nonsense that we're all living through. and then also to talk spirits, which is something that we regularly do in our normal lives, but have not been able to do just throughout this whole experience. So tonight's guest is Esteban Morales Garibi, and in my opinion, he belongs on the Mount Rushmore of agave, not called tequila. And I look at his range of products as kind of like a love letter to Mexico. So if you're familiar with the whole range, I mean, it's just kind of, he's got a lot of areas covered, and something that I certainly appreciate and love that I've been able to be exposed to so many of them. So with that, we're just gonna jump right into it. Esteban, I just want to thank you for being here. First of all, I know this is your second online appearance today, and sometimes that can be a lot of talking, but we'll see how it goes, and hopefully we get some good stuff out of you. But I did do my internet research, and we did a lot of Googling, listened to some other interviews that you've done in the past, and I just kind of wanted to run through some of your timeline here, and then kind of get your thought process on it, because I think there's some traits that exist throughout the entire thing, and I'll ask you questions after after we talk about it and stuff. But so basically, after high school, you take off, you go to the UK for a couple months.
A couple of years.
Couple years, travel. You're all over the place. When you do come back, and I'm showing it as 2003, you're going to university. You start your first business in Mexico, and it was a little coffee shop, but it was a coffee shop you ran out of a car.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 2003, guys. Right. So he runs that, and then in 2006, you open up your first restaurant, 200-seater, called Ooh La La. Yep. And so that had a mix of Italian, Thai, Mexican food, like kind of all over the place. And then also kind of one of the first places that actually did craft cocktails in Guadalajara as well.
Yes.
Okay. 2008, you are starting to get into the agave world, and you start distribution of Alapis Mezcal, amongst other things. 2010, you open up 400 Caneos, which ends up being, more of just a tasting bar, but a place that you have a little bit more control over. You open up when you want to, which I think is like one of the raddest things. 2011, La Venenosa gets Mexican government approval. Also, and then let's see, 2014, it comes to America. 2018, or let's see, 2012, you start working on Darumbas, and then 2018, you get that into the States, or is that a little bit before?
No, 2012 started the Rumbas, and 2014 La Higuera, but I can't remember exactly when was the first order of the Rumbas to the States, but I think it's 2014 at the end. No, September was La Venenosa, and next year, 2015, was the Rumbas.
Okay, and then let's see, 2019, then we do the Bonete and the Yoi.
Yes.
In addition to that, you're also exporting to the UK. You have a couple Airbnbs as well in Guadalajara. So basically, with all of that said, how the hell do you find all this motivation to do all these different projects? Now, I know some of them are no longer going, like the restaurant was about 6 years, and then that's no longer around, but like, you're constantly doing something, and you really built yourself up. And I want to just kind of tap into, like, where does that motivation come from, and how have you been able to maintain that, over this time period?
Cool. It's a really nice introduction, Drew. And I found myself in a commitment of build jobs. When I was living in UK, and traveling around, I visit like more than 20 countries at the time, between Europe, Asia, and Africa. And I was very young, but I have something clear in my mind. I wanted to come back to Mexico and make jobs. That's the commitment. And the only way to make jobs is to find a job for you first. Self-employed. And so the coffee shop was like my own employee. So instead of taking a job from somebody else, it's like building your own job, and then maybe you will need some help, and then you are just, without notice, you are just building jobs for people who has a little more need. So that was an ease and still the motivations to open companies and develop projects and keep my mind busy, but my heart full. That's the whole point. And right now with all the projects in the agave spirits in Mexico, I found like 3 columns that complete like my self need. The first of the columns is the social aspect. So you building social relationships and social wellness for many families. And then the second one is the cultural part. So you have something to get impressed and get interest in something in every single region, with every single family, with every single process in the mezcal that I found is keeps me busy and interest in learning and share that learning to the people. So it's social, cultural, and the third one is a fair economic trade. So you build a business also out of the first two. So if it's a good social area and it's covered, and then a good cultural, so the third one has to be a good business for all the parties. So these 3 aspects just keeps me in a good shape, in a good like mood to continue doing it, you know, and you know, it's a full combination for my person, I think.
Yeah. Awesome. So with a lot of these projects that you've done, I mean, I think it's appropriate to describe them as, you know, pretty ambitious and, you know, unique ones. I mean, especially when it started to come like the La Venenosa project, when nobody was talking about Raicilla, you're the one that kind of ushered it in. And then when you started your restaurant, you know, I think you were in your mid-20s. And, you know, when you're doing stuff like that, I mean, obviously there needs to be some sort of, you know, investment from people and stuff like that as well. When it comes to these ambitious projects, like what do you think the main factor was in people believing and investing in you when it came to, you know, either you being young or just like, what the hell is Raicilla? Why would we invest into this? What do you think those factors are?
The cool thing about all these different projects is I just get invest once, and it was like 300,000 pesos, like 15,000 US dollar, and that's the only invest that I get from any outsider that is not a partner. I pay back and everything start building by my own. Like in La Venenosa, it was any outside investment, everything from my pocket. So you have to be very organized and label every single penny in your pocket. Because otherwise you cannot doing it, you know. And a lot of love. I never count the money in my pocket. I never conscious of how much I have, but I know where I want to go. I know exactly where I want to arrive. So I never forget that, like where I am going. And the money is just something that happens after, and it's not the matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and
but to answer that, how this first investment came is like if the people saw you working and working your ass off, it's normal. The people wants to invest in people that is like have a commitment and responsibility in, and you project that. So I say no to investment many times.
Yeah. Yeah, so it really does take the right person for you to work with. Is there like, are there certain qualities? Is it just kind of like, oh, I get along with this person, I want to work with them?
Yeah, no, I have a lot of partners, but I like to have partners to share the work and not just to get money involved. And so in the Rumbes, we are 3. We divide the project very well. And is Sergio from Don Fulano involved in the commercial area, and we have Ivan that is in the financials. So I keep myself in the relationships with the producers, in the quality of the mezcal, in the profiles of the mezcals. So I just do the things that I enjoy most. So it's a really good combination. I don't need to think about in the depletions or into inventory of glass or labels or stoppers. So somebody covered that.
Yeah. Let people just have their strengths.
Yeah.
Drew, can I add something, Drew? I think Esteban, part of what Drew is saying too is it's not just the monetary investment, but the investment in some of your ideas when they were so unique at the time. Like, what is Raicilla? Why should we invest in working with this with you, you know, and selling it to distributors and things like that? Like, how are you able to convey that?
Thanks, Robert. Okay, you give me a little more deep way to talk. I think is the commitment and the responsibilities. I don't abandon a brand just because I just get some orders or POs arrives. So, you know, it's like keep doing the things, keep the track, and we have a very clear commitment that if you open a market, you visit that market right away, even if doesn't cover, you know, the investment at the beginning. Is you have to keep this relationship with the not just with the producers at the beginning, but also with the reps, with the importers, with the distributors. Every single part of this chain is very important in the social way. So you have to believe in every single person in front of you that is representing these labels, and also you have to show them what is behind that label, you know, what's the relationships that we have with the producers, the quality of the liquid, the human quality also of around the liquid. So I believe in that.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Robert, for the assist on that. I mean, that was definitely a little bit more deep than just the monetary stuff. But moving on from that one, just kind of going through, you know, your past and, you know, and as we went through that timeline, it just seems like you're always kind of 2 steps ahead of everybody else when it comes to, you know, Mexican spirits and the things that you're investing your time in and starting these projects with. What do you attribute that to? I mean, is it things that you're seeing gaps in the market, or is it, you know, people that you're meeting kind of be like, it would be really rad to bring this to this market or this to that market? Like, what was like, how do you kind of stay ahead of the game when it comes to?
I'm gonna change the perspective of that question.
Okay.
No, I think it's when you really care about the things you are doing and the research and the positions that I have and in agave spirits right now, it's just a consequence of love and care. It's easy. So every single decision is not like this is gonna be cool for the market. This is gonna be a successful. Or I think it's in the beginning is like the commitment again for building a better life for people in my community, in my state, in my neighbor state is, and that commitment take me to far away places, to the less accessible vinatas or tabernas, and find a place for them in the market. I think that's the motivation and that's the answer. Like I'm not trying to go 2 steps ahead in any case. I think it's just like the consequence of what I've been doing for the past 10 years, and I don't see myself in that position.
Well, I mean, you might not see it, but like I said, I think there's some others kind of be like, man, now he's doing this project, like that's really cool. Or, you know, when you launch a, you know, a Satol, or, you know, when people were doing mezcal, you know, predominantly everything was just coming out of Oaxaca. And you were like, well, you know, we're going to start in Oaxaca, but then we're going to start to feature some of these other states and stuff like that, you know.
I don't like the easy way.
Okay, there you go.
I don't like to just make an espadín out of Oaxaca and say, okay, this is my mezcal brand, and it's very cool and he's the best producer ever. I think I like to say, okay, this is cool mezcal, but let's go outside the box and let's talk with the things that the people doesn't know, and they will listen a little, and it takes longer, and it's not a business right away, and it's not easy, but at the end it's not the motivation is not the money. The motivation is to share the unique aspects of Mexican culture using mezcal as the way, as the road, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, you know, and again, part of you guys doing things a little bit differently is, for example, like Darumba is the first country that you took it to actually wasn't the US. It seems like you took it everywhere but the US at first. And I'm curious to know, like, you know, what was when you guys are sitting down and you're doing that strategy meeting, like, we were like, hey, let's go everywhere but the US. Like, what's the thought process there, and, you know, some of the decision making that goes into, you know, taking these products around the world?
Okay, first, everybody in Mexico that wants to make an spirit, they try to sell to California right away. It's like the first goal, you know, because they've been hearing that is the biggest market, and it is. This is not. But again, we start with the difficult part, like Europe, Asia, tiny markets that doesn't have that much knowledge, and they need a little more education, and then the States. But it was a nice journey. It started in a different way.
Do you think that has anything to do with, you know, some of your travels earlier in your life? And, you know, because if, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that when you were younger, you kind of had aspects to enter law school and things like that. And then you started to travel the world a little bit, and you're like, I don't want to do that at all. I want to, you know, you became a chef, you were cooking food. But do you think that plays a factor at all in kind of what?
That decision doesn't came from me. That decision was a little push of my mom. I need to give credit to her. It's like, don't be stupid, go and travel.
Well, it seems to work out.
Yeah, it works out. It's like I was too serious, too young, you know, to become a lawyer. I cannot imagine myself not like a lawyer, but yeah, no. I think that travel gives me a different perspective of the world, but no in the market. No, I think it was relationships that Sergio from Don Fulano have it before, and make it easy to put the rumbes in Europe right away. Mm. For La Venenosa, for example, was very curious. The first exportation was to Australia in 2012. And the history behind it is funny. I get to Bar Convent Berlin in 2012 as a speaker, And the presentation on the class that I make in Berlin at the time was about Sotol, Bacanora, Raicilla, all these like unknown at the time mules from Mexico. And I gave a couple of bottles as a gift to a bartender that works in Candelaria, Paris. So one day a guy jumped into this bar, asked for something cool, and the bartender put Venenosa Costa for him, and he just get in love for this liquid, just traveled back to Australia. He was working in a distributor, an importer company. So he convinced his boss to bring La Venenosa to Australia. That's how the life works sometimes. And so it was not even a special decision. They look after me and ask me for the product. So that's why also we start in a different countries and faraway countries that is not easy, like sending a truck to crossing border of the States.
Yeah. So the next thing I wanted to ask you about was I personally am a huge fan of all the different packaging that you've come up with, for each one of the products, whether it's, kind of like, the Darumbas here, or, the Yoi, the Bonete that you have. And I don't have a bottle of it and I feel bad right now, but the Guerra Sotol as well. It's like, those are some of my favorite bottles. So I just want to ask you, when it comes to bottle design and, again, like we're seeing so many different things like hit our market all the time. Like, what are some of the things that you're trying to do to make your bottles stand out? Or like, what's some of the backstory, behind, like, let's say like the Bacanora, what are some of the things you can share about that label?
From 2003 to 2005, no, 2003 to 2008, I tried to finish the College of Industrial Design. It was not really good luck because I was just dealing with 2 restaurants and trying to keep the university going. So I quit, but I have a creative side, and I love like the aesthetics, the arts, and the design. But I don't design myself anymore. I think the only label that I designed myself was La Higuera. The other ones, sometimes I just draw a concept, but I give it to someone to make it properly. And I want to start also with the history of La Venenosa, and then I will jump to Joey. As a label, I have a bunch of good friends that are designers. So I tell them I have this budget to make a logo and a label for a raicilla. But the only rule I have is like, I don't want a snake on it. and obviously one of them didn't give a fuck of the rule and making a snake. and I love it, and I keep it. So in Yowie, for example, Yowie is an Yaqui word that means the old and the wise. So it's how these people, the Yaqui, is I think a group in Sonora, it's how they call to the old men that lead the tribes, that the guy who takes the decision for the better of the group. And this guy has it represents himself with the form of the deer, because the deer represent like the natural knowledge, like the knowledge that you achieve with the age, with the time, with the years. So we trying to express this transmutations from human to deer or deer to human into the label. That is the meaning of the word.
Oh, nice. Okay, and then in going through your timeline, I mean, obviously you've been around the agave spirits over the past 10 years, and you've seen things change pretty significantly. And the growth of agave has been just ridiculous. And, not just for tequila or mezcal, but now you are seeing more stuff come from the rest of the country. And so I was just curious from your perspective, and with as much exposure you've had to it, what do you see as the positives in the growth of the of agave spirits, and then what do you see as have been the negatives?
That's a huge and long question and a nice one. Okay.
Well, we're on quarantine, so we got time. So.
All right. I think we lost in translation many things. When the product crossed any border, I know we are now talking mostly people from the States, but any border, when the mezcal, let's call mezcal, because at the end of the day, everything is mezcal, that's so tall, but let's do this easy. When any mezcal cross the border, there is a bunch of good minds and opinion leaders that doesn't have enough time spent in the fields and with the families in Mexico. And they think they know mezcal for some technical reasons, and start changing the conceptions and the understanding of mezcal. And I found these misconceptions many times in many places. And that's one of the things that I feel negative for the industry, because we forget that every single person that makes one liquid, any mezcal, is a guy who wants to grow. It's a guy who wants to have a better life. It's a guy who wants to get better quality in his life. But somehow there is a bunch of people that believe and think that if these guys change any part of the process, they are losing, and they are just talking badly about any people that they know they get a little bigger than it was, or because they changed the donkey to electric tractor to move the Taona because the picture is not that nice. And I think we need to, again, in the future, keep our minds open that every single maestro mezcalero has the freedom and the rights and the historical flavor to decide what he wants to change at any time, at any moment, at any part of the process, if they believe is worth it, without the judgment of a part of the market. And that's one of the things that I would love to encourage, to think about social sustainability instead of just sustainability of the agave or sustainability of the bats, or we are not taking care of our humans. What's the meaning of having a mountain full of agaves if we don't have any family who knows how to work with these plants? And so we need just to be open-minded to the people, to the changes. I think it's really nice that it's growing in social aspects, because there is a lot of mezcal to be done. It's a lot of land to be farmed, a lot. There is so many work to do. So it's just the beginning, and mezcal is still very small. And I saw a lot of opportunities for many Mexicans. And I believe that every single company that makes jobs for Mexican people has something good to talk. instead of just keeping ourselves talking shit about shitty things. What else? Whew. Numbers. 2018, because we don't have the numbers of 2019 yet, like the official ones. But in 2018, mezcal sold legally, like CRM numbers, 6 million liters, just making rounded numbers. From that 6 million liters, around 96 to 97% was produced and sold from Oaxaca. So imagine this, the other 3% you have to split in another 8, 9 states. And then you can split that in 12 months and then split that number into how many families per state. It's like the numbers are ridiculous low as a business for Durango, for Michoacan, for Zacatecas, for San Luis Potosí, for Tamaulipas, that is nothing, for Guanajuato, for Puebla. It's ridiculous. It's so little numbers. So it's everything in front of us to do it and to grow. You know, it's nothing to be worried. Sorry, guys, I have a visitor that wants to say hi. Hey. Say hi, everyone.
Hi.
There you go. Ready to go to the bed. Sorry, guys, but it's quarantine, being home.
No, I know the feeling. Trust me, it's been interesting to say the least with my 2-year-old. So, you know,
I'm in their area. You know, I'm using their space.
their activity room.
Exactly.
So I'm jumping ahead a little bit in my questions, but I do kind of want to build off what you said because I do think it's important. And you know, again, I think you've had a pretty big impact on the industry, but you know, you do a really exceptional job of keeping pretty low key when it comes to, like you said, talking shit on pages like Smoked Agave and Facebook and social media in general and stuff like that. And I know there's a couple times where, you know, they get the best of you and, you know, you jump in there and you really go to town on people, which I personally love. And you've changed my opinion on a lot of things. But, you know, when you see stuff like on Smoked Agave and stuff like that, or I don't know if you've completely walked away at this point, but is there anything that you would want people, you know, that you kind of did touch on it, but like, is there anything else that you would change about forums like that? Or, you know, the opinions that people have that you kind of be like, no, those are just completely wrong. And now you talk about the human aspect, and I think that's a really good answer, but I don't know if there's if you have any other feelings towards some of those keyboard warriors that are out there.
Oh, okay. And I know myself, and I have a very warm blood, easy to explode. So I just try to just don't use anymore. I just quit everything. I'm out. That is my mistake, not their mistake. You know. So every single person has an opinion, and I need to respect that opinion. And I think when we jump to a discussion that I like to discuss, I like to exchange concepts and ideas. I found in these platforms a very, very close minds. They don't want to learn or to discuss, to give a little chance to don't be right. Every single one are fighting to be right, and that's the thing that I have frustrating me more. Like if somebody says gray and somebody says white, somebody says black, and we can find different layers of colors at the end, is beautiful. But when somebody else really is ready to fight because he's black and just black and he cannot see any gray, is just absurd, because nobody is 100% right on this, you know, and
Yeah.
and that's the things that I will love to encourage people to change. They don't need to tell everybody that they are right, you know. Even in very simple discussions on this topic, every single one's fight to be right in a stupid matters. And yeah, that's why I just quit and I abandoned that groups.
But it's not the worst idea. I wish I had more resolve so I could follow your lead. With you know, with that being said, I mean, I know that there's been a lot of changes, especially within the Ricea world over the past, year and a half. Like, now there's been regulations that have been put forth, and I know through some of those, again, like La Venenosa kicked down the door, and for most people when it came to Ricea, and now through these new regulations, there's expressions within that lineup that would no longer be considered Ricea. When you see these regulations and stuff like that, like I'm sure you're not the biggest fan of it, but what do you see as the biggest drawbacks to all these different regulations and things that are being put forth by these different government entities?
Okay, first of all, government is not involved. Government just sign paper and say, yes, you have a recognition, or no, you don't. And then all the homework is from a group that wants to make a jacket, to certify these products. So all the next laws that is gonna came is gonna be designed by a group of people who has interest in taking money out of the producers. But I lost. Can you repeat the question in a condensed way, like just?
Yeah, I'm just saying, what you see is maybe the biggest drawbacks to these regulations.
Okay, the biggest one is I think it's gonna be a failure, because people doesn't have a structure. The people who ask for these regulations and this DO, they don't understand how to build a structure, first. Second, they decide to just apply to 60 municipalities. And from these 60 municipalities, there is less than 7 producers that has enough size and money to pay a certification process. And these 7 producers, maybe the half, are not happy to pay for that certification process, that somebody else is gonna come to their distillery to say how to do the things. So you cannot pay your fees and your pay slips as the people who wants to build this shed. You cannot live out of 3 or 4 producers. The only way you can live, if you want to be in a council, is if you build a huge volume out of Ricea, and is not going to happen, because there is not enough raw material, and there is not enough infrastructure as a distilleries to do it. So it's not a very good future in that terms, So maybe this new DOs is gonna go as the same way as the Sotol and the Bacanora goes, Everybody's happy, everybody's loud, because they have a paper signed as a new DO, but nothing is gonna happen in the future. Because at the end of the day, the only ones that we can grow and build and a DO are brands. So CRM and Hippocrates, they don't build mezcal, Del Maguey, Alipus, there was the leaders of building mezcal. And then brands like Real Minero and etc., they build the DO, and they build Oaxaca out of. And then the CRT is now CRM taking like credits of building mezcal, but it's the different way around. You know, it's the brands and the liquid, the one who builds the DO. And these guys in Raicilla, they are doing in the opposite. There is people that doesn't produce, they don't sell, they don't have anything in the chain, they don't farm, so they don't have a clue. They don't travel, they don't talk about Raicilla outside. So I think that all the process has been in a grown way.
No, yeah, totally understandable, and I think that's pretty fair criticism. One of the other things that you're starting to see kind of throughout the world is agave coming from different countries, and I know that you're actually like pretty supportive of that, and you like to see agave in different parts of the world. And I was hoping that you could expand on that and why you see that as a benefit for just in general.
Okay, it's just to look around the other categories of spirits in the world, like whiskey, like vodka, gin, rum. So they don't have an exclusivity for a country, Yeah, obviously we know that Scotch whiskey claim like the originality, but now you can drink an amazing and stunning whiskeys in all over the States, and Japanese, and even Taiwan and other countries are jumping into. Now Mexico, is like the guys from Escorpión that do Sierra Norte, and now the guys from Montelobos that they are just launching Abasolo, and the guy of Pier de Almas that has his non-aged whiskey with ancestral corn. So we can play with whiskey, and somehow we get mad in somebody else plays with agave. That's like, what the fuck? Something is growing in here. So again, in the colony, in this time of period of the world globally, we have an amazing exchange of merchandise. We get in Mexico bananas, and we get plátanos and tamarindo and sugar cane and a lot of beautiful fruits and other plants from all over the world that sometimes Mexican thinks they're native to Mexico, and they are not. And also the same way agave travel outside Mexico. They took it to all the Mediterranean, to even China and Middle East, and you find agaves all over. Even so, if they can use it and do something with care and love, and they can share that, it will bring a really nice point into the conversation. It's like, this is an agave spirit from Africa, and it's very enjoyable, and these guys has this history, and they has been farming, and they are making hundreds of jobs for African people. So the competition will be a little harder, and they push ourselves to be better. I don't see any ground on that. The history will be with us all the time. That's something that nobody can steal it. So if you are confident of the things that you are doing, you cannot feel fear about whatever the people are doing outside. I think that the fear came when the people doesn't have a clue of what is happening in their own backyard.
Yeah. So with that, do you think that there's like some major misconceptions that exist within the agave world, and what are some of the ones that you feel like you run into a lot? Because you are taking these agave spirits all over the place, like as you said. I mean, is there something that you run into a lot that you're kind of like, oh yeah, that's not true at all, or you hear consistently when it comes to agave spirits?
Now that I think, I don't know. I don't have that things like in my mind every time. Like I just when I saw it, sometimes I jump in, but I can't remember.
Esteban, one of the, real quick, one of the things that comes to mind that I thought of, I actually got to do a tasting with you when I was down in Guadalajara last with Fortaleza, and I had brought up in some sort of subject, but mixto, and you had a very and not necessarily a negative way, but said, oh, maybe it tastes like a mixto in kind of a bad way, and you made a point to say, don't get it twisted. There's a lot of great mixto out there, which I thought was something that was a misconception for like a lot of general consumers. I mean, myself included.
Make I just I'm gonna say it. Yeah, we are just playing with make mixto great again in this crisis of blue weather and price that is crazy high. Now I think and I believe and I truly can explain that it's better a well mixto than a diffuser 100% agave. And the misconception of the mixto is built out of some brands, but there is a beautiful old school brand that they just doing mixto from sugarcane, raw sugarcane. We call piloncillo or panocha. It's not even a melaza. It's just like raw crystallized juice of sugarcane. So it's powerful, flavorful, amazing, like complexity of aromas. So you have a tequirón that is great. It just tastes great and is super cheap to make, and is nothing wrong with that. Like, but the brands needs to explain it, to talk about openly. But now some of them, they feel bad because they are just making mixto. So there is so many things in tequila industry that is I think it's just taboos. But you can do a blind tasting of a proper mixto and diffuser tequila with additives, and it's gonna be way better the mixto by far, by far. You know.
Hey, Esteban, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't one of the new GNOME releases, mixto cannot be called mezcal within the CRM anymore, correct?
Yeah. CRM and mezcal doesn't allow mixto.
So do you know of any mixtos that are coming to the US still currently?
From tequila. Yeah,
from tequila, yeah, I get it. But from the actual that were in the mezcal category.
No anymore. No anymore. And truly, I don't know any mezcal that is working in a quality mixtos. I don't have it in my mind.
Okay, I get it.
But again, let me the relationship about the quality we're talking is like now tequila industry allows to call 100% agave a product that has been made in a diffuser with additives. Like 1% of the volume of the liquid can be added as a flavors, as a colorants, as a glycerin. So in this relation between chemical and flavor added to a proper mixto, I will drink mixto by fast decision. Like right now, the word 100% agave doesn't have a really meaning in the industry just like that. Like some brands really care about that and do it properly, but you know the brands you drink. But there is a open space for brand to do shitty things.
Yeah,
but again, it's complicated to to just point it out. It's
Yeah.
no reason. There is market for every single product.
Yeah. No, I was just curious.
Is there any mixto that you could ever see yourself bringing, to the market?
Yeah. Yeah, I would love to work with Tequileño from ever. Now it's Canadian. I'm happy for them. But it's a brand that I like to drink. I drink myself. When I visit them, like Mariscos, like seafood restaurant in Mexico, they don't have a bunch of things to choose, but they have Tequileño. I go to Tequileño very easy, no doubt.
Yeah. Nice.
And there is a local brand called Jalisco with X, Xalixco. It's just sold locally, and it's 70% agave with 30% piloncillo, and I can go with that too for sure.
Nice. Okay. We'll have to track those down. What's next for you? Like, what do you see? Are there any projects that you're able to share with us, or is there anything that maybe have some aspirations to do when it comes to? Because I mean, again, we know that you're a man of a million businesses, so I wanted to kind of see what's.
I've been cooking in my mind for a long time to open my own distillery, and I want to make like a little active museum of distillations of occidental part of Mexico. So I want to build in a place where I can have different stills from all the regions that I've been visiting, that I will love to try to do things. And that's my next step as a person, this commitment in this industry is to distill and do all the process myself. And also to answer questions that I have in front of the stills, in front of the cuts, in front of the fermentation. That's my next step. It's not a long-term project. I think it's a medium-term project. I wanted to start this year. Now I saw a little difficult to make this happen in 2020, but at most has to be in 2021 to open the doors of this place.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
So something to look forward to. And then one of my favorite things
in this term, also I want to make a little tiny lab in this distillery that is going to be just steam cooked, stainless steel, the most pure, clean process ever. And I will love to make a small batches of every single agave around Mexico with not fire, with not wood, and to develop profiles. Yep.
Nice. Okay. That'd be awesome.
Yep.
One of my favorite things that you've done is you actually bottle the puntas from different distillations, and I've had obviously the one from La Venenosa, which is amazing, but I've also had the one from Caballito, and I brought it home with me, and it's been like one of my favorite 70% ABV pours.
This is duro.
Yeah, it's when you want to just forget that day, you start drinking that. But I'm just curious, like what was your thought process when you're like, what we need to do? We need to bottle this up. Because I know when I talked to Javier at Caballito, he was like, he's like, why would you want to do this? And you're like, no, it's good. Like you need to try it.
Yep. We have a really good relationship, Javier and I, and we are the same age. Like really, we find ourselves in a support way to share many things in the industry. The same with Sergio Don Fulano. But about Puntas was a conversation. It was a urban legend. Every single person who really knows and drink raicilla, they talk at least once. Do you ever drink Puntas? Like, do you try the puntas? Do you have the chance to drink puntas? Is puntas has been always there. Like these high cots is like a precious liquid for the producer that keeps for special visits and occasions. Sometimes I can just consider as when people share pechuga in his palenque with you and it's not outside in the market. It's like something that is still like unique and special for share in special occasions. So I start experimenting with puntas with Ruben, but it was a little harder and just difficult to continue to have it. And then one day sitting in the porch with Gerardo, we're just talking about all these things in the mountains, not sense talk, it's just everything and not a structured conversation. And he brings out the puntas and we drink puntas and I feel this warm coming down to my body in a very nice way. And I say, okay, do you want to bottle puntas? Do you want to keep puntas like a project to sell and put the price you want? And he said, yes, I want it. And I don't care. And he was in a moment, in a complicated moment of his life because he get gangrene in his leg. And the doctor says, I need to cut the whole leg. And he said, you know, all the things, I have a lot of liquid to process. I want to process and sell it just to you as a, just, you need to keep the cash flowing because I'm going to stop working for a year. So that's the beginning of puntas because he just distill everything he has for that year and put it in a high cots and give me the responsibility of selling it. But because he stopped like completely, like doing nothing, and he saved the whole leg, the fucking whole leg. He lose just a little piece of his of a finger on the foot when the doctor says I want to cut the leg. So it was a very important. So that's also, you can feel that energy in a positive way in a very nice flavor of puntas because he loves the things he made and he loves the quality he represents. And we bottle puntas at 60 and above, not just because it's high, because it's very enjoyable. That's the whole point. That's the truth of behind bottling puntas is there is no sense to sell it just because they are high ABV. If the people is not going to enjoy it, I will never put it on a bottle. But I know this expression is something that makes you feel good when you drink it.
Yeah, like I said, it definitely started as a novelty for me, and it's something that I really do enjoy sharing with people when I do tastings and and have friends over and stuff like that. So it's kind of cool to see that that's kind of like the origin of it as well. Because
Yep.
you do, like, you look at the ABV and it's hard not to be just a little bit terrified of what
Yeah.
you know. But then when you actually drink it, it's so beautiful. And Robert just commented that he thinks that we need to do a bonete puntas. So if that's good, I'm definitely in.
Yeah. The
for
thing
that.
is, yeah, I mean, but one of the things that is important to keep in mind, I would love to have one expression of each producer of puntas, but not all the puntas are the same enjoyable at that high ABV.
Yeah.
So, I have right now from Beto, from La Costa, like 63%. And I keep drinking it to find maybe a couple of liters that are really enjoyable.
Send me
But
a sample, baby.
Yeah, next time I travel. But I know not all the time are that good.
Right.
And the consistency of the quality in Gerardo, I think is something unique.
Yeah. No,
Because
it totally makes sense.
when it's higher ABV, every single defect is higher too.
Okay.
So not all the puntas are enjoyable.
That's good to know because I mean, granted,
In the-
I've only had two, but they've both been very good. So
In
I was
in the enjoyable in the market way. So you can enjoy it as a professional of this, but maybe you don't buy it in a
Yeah.
liquor store.
right. Well, you know, I really appreciate you kind of going through the gambit with me on all these questions. It's been a lot of fun. And so I want to open it up to anybody else. Does anybody else have
Yeah.
any questions or anything like
Please,
that?
please.
Let's see. Anyone? Bueller?
Yeah, I've got a question.
Okay, Chris. Go for it.
Christopher?
So when you were talking about the mixtos, and you said you came across one that's 70% agave and 30% of the sugar. Is that sugar distillate or is it just syrup added in?
Okay, it is piloncillo. Piloncillo is a imagine the use of sugar cane boiled and evaporates into the point that get crystallized. So it's just that, and they blend this piloncillo in the fermentation to increase the richness of sweetness in the liquid and get a better yield in the production. But as you blend these sugars in the fermentation, so the agave flavor really gets blended into the sugars flavors.
Cool. Thank you.
Esteban,
Yep.
yeah, is there a possibility with the high price of Blue Weber agave that you could get a mixto that was 51% Blue Weber and 49% another agave that was less expensive?
I think nobody is playing that rule yet, that game. But it's interesting. You know, because it can be a switch in the industry of tequila. Let me jump into the laws and see how CRT can react to that.
Wouldn't that have been like some of the early days of tequila where you're seeing Angustifolia mixed in with Blue Weber anyway, like in the earlier days?
I want to take that question, Robert, and make it a longer answer. Sorry, guys. I hope you have still time. But if we want to talk about timelines, let's talk about the timeline of tequila. Because it's very important to understand the bigger mezcal producer in Mexico, to understand the other mezcals around, and even raicillas or other Jalisco, Michoacan mezcals close to tequila reality. So if everybody knows that tequila is mezcal, is the first step to understand this timeline. And you know that is already proved that in the theories about the beginning of mezcal that circulates today, the most acceptable one says that mezcal begins in Jalisco, south of Jalisco and Colima, with the influence of the Philippines that the Spaniards bring in 1600s. So they mixed this knowledge of distillation from the sap of coconut palm with the cooking process of agave for sugar storage that the locals has. So mezcal begins in this region of Mexico, and very fast spread the word through the rest of the country because it was the soma for the defeats, the soma for the slaves, you know. Imagine the reality of working 18 hours a day and you just get paid rice and beans and wake up next day and do the same. So when the people learn how to distill themselves without using metals like clay pots and tree trunks, everybody just spread the word because agaves was growing all over Mexico. So tequila, it was a region that has a lot of farmers of agave at the time, just before mezcal. It was already a rich area for the locals as farmers of agaves. And also the measure of the richness for locals around was the number of agaves that they have it in their land. So it was very easy for this region to become a very important producer of mezcal, you know, and very easily became famous, yeah, mezcal from tequila area. Another aspect that happens is in the 1700s, became the provision of producing mezcal for obvious reasons. Everybody was drunk and they didn't want it to work. So it was not the competition in the business, you know, mezcal was for the slaves. No, any Spaniard was drinking mezcal. So, but every single local was drunk and hangover, so they stopped working. So the haciendas and the control, they didn't want it for the slaves to get drunk. So they put the provision of mezcal production. So make harder, but not impossible. They just get more higher, hide into the hills and the canyons to keep producing the only drug they has available to get out of the reality of being a slave. So that also answered one of the questions that how was first, like the alambic or the Philippine style of distillation in Mexico. And the answer is like, obviously for the conqueror and the Spaniards colony, people thought that the Spaniard brings the Arabic alembic to the colony, but the Arabic alembic was built out of copper. And obviously the Spaniards didn't allow the slaves to have copper. They wanted all the metals to get out of the colony back to the Spain. So silver, copper, gold, all the metal. So you as a slave, how to buy a copper in the colony? It was not chance, not even close to be a reality. So was completely first was mezcal production, clay and wood as a things that they can build themselves to the steel. So in the provision, something happened in the area that we know today. At that moment was La Nueva Galicia. The government of this region of Mexico that covers some pieces of the north of Michoacán, Colima, Jalisco, Zacatecas, and south of Durango and Nayarit, they asked for special permission to keep the production because they have already the plan to build aqueducts for Guadalajara City with the taxes of tequila production, mezcal from this area production. So that moment makes one of the biggest impacts of how and why tequila get bigger than other regions before. So when everybody else was illegal production, tequila region and surround was legal production. So for the main industry in that moment in the colony, that was the minery, all the haciendas, like the big minery haciendas or factories, as we want to call it, they needed some alcohol to keep the workers mining, you know, to give them a little like something to keep alive, these guys working hard. And the only source to buy alcohol in a cheap way and legal way was tequila. So that changed from being a taberna, like a little distilleries, to become a proper distilleries, and to keep the attention of the Spanish families as a business. So it's when Sausas and Cuervos begins to get control and get involved into the business of tequila, you know, in the late 1700s. That is the timeline, how tequila just get bigger and bigger. So they get they get better steels, so start the copper steels. So what happened in the world in 1800s? What was the main change in the globe in 1800s? Industrial revolution, the use of steam in the industry. And then you check when tequila started using steam for cooking agave, late 1800s. Okay, so it was just a trend that they have enough money to buy and to get a, you know, easiest, faster way of cooking. So they add the steam at the late 1800s, and not just because it was a bunch of people worry for the history, you know, like the hipsters today, like how is gonna change that? Is gonna lose everything? No, no, no. It was a natural decision in the timeline and in the moment in the history that these people was living. It was a correct decision to buy steam makers to cook their agaves. That another big change. Then what happened in 1900s that changed everything in the world? I don't know, Second World War, maybe, yeah. What happened in that? Just if, and can affect the tequila industry, say consistency in the food industry, cans of food with the same flavor, the same color, the same quality. You know, the master blender of whiskey, same profile. Consistency was the big trend. Even in industrial design, you know, the same furniture made in the same quality allowed everyone to buy the same chair, the same table with a better price. It was just like the consistency in a bigger proportions of production. So how this trend of consistency affect tequila? Now, if you research when start just using Blue Weber was in 1960. So they used to, as any other mezcal production area, they used to work with more than 10 different varieties of agaves. And now they are using just Blue Weber. And that happened and begins in 1960s because we believe that using just one agave, it was more easy to keep the consistency of the flavors that the demand of the market was asking for. So again, and how and why they decide to Blue Weber, I think it's just because the relationship between time of growth and yield. That combination makes easy decisions to go through the Blue Weber. I don't know if that answers some of your questions, Robert, or I just take deeper without any logic.
That was completely worthless. No, it was good, man. It was good.
Love you, man. But yeah, and this timeline is in my is something that I've been like developing myself. Is not it from many different books and posters and researches from different historians, and that they talk about this, but not in a single timeline, but in a different context that I've been building this map, you know.
Yeah, it you know that just kind of makes me think about Summer just chimed in and talking about how that makes sense in this timeline and everything like that, and I'm curious moving forward, how like what can we do in our positions like here in the U.S. As you have shop owners, you have bar owners, sales reps. Like, what are the things that we can do to help tell this story and to make sure that the story's correct and stuff like that? I mean, what are the resources that we should look into that you trust that we can also trust as well?
No, I don't. I jump on that one.
Okay.
Why? No, it's complicated. It's like giving you like choose. Okay, I think it's. Somebody told me once, like, don't believe in anything before you prove it. So that's a hard work. Even in this industry, it's like don't take anything as a truth from anyone until you really prove it or believe it. And we are living this time in the history that you read a bunch of stupid things in the social media, and very few ones spend enough time to check twice the facts. So I encourage, instead of just choosing searches, it's like whatever is important for you to prove, to build your own perception of agave industry, check twice, thrice with different searches to build that context. So I cannot tell you one search or two, not even myself. Don't believe in anything I've been told, because they are just words. But if something of the things that I told today makes you wants to learn more, just go through different ways and try to validate that information before even taking it as a truth. I think is the only way today.
Esteban, I actually think you answered part of this earlier too, when you talked about being pragmatic and being ready for change and allowing the producers to change. So there isn't necessarily a universal truth all the time. It's constantly changing.
Yep. Yeah. And you as a distributors, importers, you can feel that with the families, with the product, with the profiles, with everything. Is things are changing, and not necessarily the changings are bad. It's just changing because we are humans and we like to change and try things and develop things and be creative, the same as the master distillers.
Well, this was really great, Esteban. I really do appreciate all the time that you were able to give to us tonight, and the stories that you were able to share. And I hope that you enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, I like the vibe, guys. Thank you.
Good. So again, everybody, thank you for tuning in tonight for the happy hour. I hope it did offer a little bit of that escapism for you, and hopefully we'll all be able to get together actually in person and drink together again. So cheers to everybody.
Let me put all this 1 second.
Oh, we got
hope all these things go to a better place fast, so I can jump into a plane and visit California and other places that I need to.
Absolutely. I cannot wait. So cheers, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
All right.
I don't know if everybody else all good?
We're good.
No questions? Cool.
Let's get you out of here.
Esteban, thank you.
All right.
Gosh, baby, I'm catching up on it.
Call me.